Good morning.
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 That was a quick change, Tom.
Yeah. I had the suit on under oath, all that stuff.
Commissioners Willie and Commissioner Fye, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, well, why don't we get going? It's 9 o'clock. Welcome everyone to the Tuesday, April 19th, 2022 Board of Commissioners work session. Clerk Moss, are we all set for the recording?
Yes, we are, Madam Chair, and I will keep an eye out for Commissioner Rogers.
All righty, so the first item on the agenda is board and leadership communication and formal agenda item discussion. Who would like to go first? Go ahead, Commissioner Treese.
Thank you, Chair. I haven't been first for a while, so I decided to raise my hand. Last week, I participated in the MPAC Coordinating Committee meeting, and since I'm second vice chair, I participate in what the agenda is going to look like and what the format's going to be. So that was the point of that meeting. We talk about, like I said, the next agenda, but in the larger scope, we are looking at more of a deep dive into the homelessness issue with some reports from different groups, and I suspect that will be ongoing throughout for several meetings. But next week's meeting is going to be focused on the RTP update and what topics MPAC wants to hear about related to the update. I'm working with Chris Deffabaugh on what perspective that from Washington County makes sense. We have a topic list that includes things like congestion pricing, climate smart strategy, climate analysis, and transportation equity analysis, along with others. So the draft RTP plan is expected in late spring of next year. We're just starting this process. I wanted to update you with that. This week I had a meeting yesterday with Mary Manceau. Mary is very active in the CPO structure. It was nice to meet in person, and we talked about the community engagement process. We also talked about Shackelford Road, and we talked about the middle housing recommendations. I went to the regional government dinner and training with Dr. John Powell last night, and it was really inspiring. There's no question about that. But I was also inspired by our own Latricia Tillman, who led the discussion with Dr. Powell after his presentation. I think she did a great job. So it was nice to be represented in that sense as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to the next person. Oh, one quick thing. A couple quick things. I've got the Community Action Board meeting this week. The Kaleidoscope event is this Friday night. And also, I'm going to be attending the Tualatin Chamber event, and I believe the chair is going to be there as well. So that's my update.
Thank you, Commissioner Treese. Any other commissioners have something you'd like to contribute? Go ahead, Vice Chair Willie.
Yeah, I'll jump in. The first TV Highway Steering Committee meeting was last week. Commissioner Fye and I sit in on that, and Erin Wardell, of course, does a great job presenting, and she did that as well at this meeting, kind of bringing everyone up. And this isn't our first TV highway study, but this one certainly is the first one that has an equity lens that we're going to use over that. Also incorporating a number of small minority businesses that are located in that corridor. And of course, we got an update from ODOT and other organizations. So it was a very good update, and it was a very good meeting. I thought Erin did a great job of presenting certainly the statistics. And Juan Carlos is the moderator. I don't know if he's chair, but anyway, he was our moderator to it. He did a great job. 2-hour meeting, and we got done right exactly on 2 hours. So he gets an A+ for efficiency during the meeting. And I'll let Commissioner Fye respond if she's got some other things. Also, Chair and I I went out and toured the B Street homeless camp in Forest Grove, and subsequently I went with the chief of police to the Highway 47 camp. It was very eye-opening. The meeting was attended by, of course, the mayor of Forest Grove, 2 city councilors, chief of police, and I believe it might have been the assistant chief. But very well attended group. We got lots of good information. So, Chair, I'll let you fill in the blanks there. You certainly were involved with all of that as well. Went to the Banks City Council meeting. I've committed to attending all of the 6 cities' city council meetings on a quarterly basis, just to bring them up to speed on what it is that we have, as a commission, are working on. Reminded them that the fair was coming the end of July, and certainly some of our focus. I think we said this last week, Chair, we participated in the 4-H weigh-in a week ago last Saturday, and we've got another one coming up in May. So lots of things going on, and the city councilors appreciate the fact that we're keeping them up to speed on what it is that we've got going. And then yesterday, interviewed the first 3 of 7 of the finalists for semi-finalists for the government relations job. And so our second round is tomorrow afternoon, and then we'll narrow that down and hand it off to the final interview group. That's all I got. Thanks.
All right, any other commissioners have something you'd like to share or contribute? Okay, well, seeing none, I'll wrap it up then. Last week, I attended the Clean Water Services Advisory Committee, CWAC. As usual, just always great information shared there and discussed with that really, really important advisory commission to us. They had a good overview of the CWS budget, and then good introduction to the Clean Water Services strategic plan. So job well done. On Friday, I think it was Friday. Well, the end of last week, I had a tour of the Analog Devices Incorporated manufacturing site off of Jenkins Road, also known as ADI. They have a fab expansion going on, and it's pretty easy to see how in our area everyone believes that we have we do have a major chip manufacturing firm here in Washington County and Oregon in the form of Intel Corporation. They historically, their chips are provided for computers, and they are certainly a leader in that domain. But Advanced Devices Inc., or ADI, is also a major chip manufacturer and essentially provides chips for a lot of the other categories. And if you take their capacity, they are the top leader for all the other domains, whether we're talking about chips for appliances or automobiles or respirators that were certainly important during the early days of COVID. And for example, they got an order from Ford Corporation because Ford retooled some of their manufacturing line during the early days of COVID to produce respirators, since we had a shortage here in the US and across the world. So anyway, they're expanding a new fab here in unincorporated Washington County. And I provided introductions to our leadership staff here at Washington County and also Clean Water Services to help support improved business support with regard to permitting. Had a great meeting with Jonathan Fratzweg of Cascade AIDS Project and provided an overview to our staff. Judging upon the response I got, I think there's still more work to do to get staff to realize that Cascades AIDS project has moved beyond their prior history into new domains. So Jonathan has a new position as the Public Policy and Grants Manager. Friday, as Commissioner Willie mentioned, and now that he's letting me give an overview, Councillor Kotke invited local elected officials to tour a property that the city owns that is viewed as parkland, and they have some longtime campers on that property. And out of that, they have questions about how especially the city manager talked about having questions about how jurisdictions can coordinate their efforts as we are all together figuring out how to reduce the experience of camping outside as a solution to the houseless problem. On Monday, we had a short chair mayor's meeting. The shelter guidelines will be re-reviewed next month with the team. And as mentioned, we had a really great learning opportunity yesterday to hear from a national expert in equity 2.0, othering and belonging. So I'm really glad I made the time to go to that. This week, there is the Government Alliance for Racial Equity Race Forward Conference hosted here in Portland. And I'm on a panel with our County Administrator, Tanya Angie, and our Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer, Latricia Tillman, and our host for the panel will be Daniel Nava. So that will be a fun exercise. Also, I want to highlight for everyone's benefit that we have an added item to our agenda today. We have a sum total of 2 different executive sessions. And also, if you haven't already noticed, all the commissioners have an email in our inboxes that relate to topic number 5, which I think you'll want to take a look at. It arrived in our inboxes last night at 6:19 p.m. So somewhere during the course of your day, hopefully you'll have a chance to review that and give it some thought before we get to that topic. I do want to make sure to ask earlier, since we should make an adjustment here to our first topic, because we have our 10 o'clock meeting, our board meeting, and these meetings now start at 9 o'clock instead of 8:30. So before we move to leadership communication, I want to make sure we touch bases on our formal agenda for our meeting today at 10 o'clock. So if there need to be any adjustments, we have time and staff has time for that. So as far as I know, we have no changes to the consent agenda from what I've heard. We have a couple of proclamations and some other things, but we have 3 different public hearings, 2 of which relate to land use ordinances with regard to middle housing. So I wanted to make sure, rather than forgetting to raise the topic and see if you have any questions on the formal agenda, to do that up front. So do any commissioners have any particular needs on the business agenda before our 10 o'clock meeting? No. Okay, great. So then we'll move on to leadership communication. Ms. Angie.
Good morning, Chair Harrington, board Board of Commissioners. I do want to pick up the thread of last week when we had discussed Pumpkin Ridge Golf Course and the Live Golf Tournament. Chair Harrington had requested for additional information really relative to the county's role in this event. So as the board is aware, there have been questions and concerns raised from community members as well as from the mayors in Washington County of the event that will be this summer at Pumpkin Ridge Golf Course, and actually over the next 3 years. As a reminder, Pumpkin Ridge is a private golf course, and this is a private event. The county has no oversight over the approval of this event, and the county does not have any permitting rules that the event would need to go through Washington County, any departments that includes Health and Human Services, or for example, the Sheriff's Office. The Sheriff's Office has communicated with the event organizers that they are responsible for event security and safety. Because the county has primary jurisdiction for public safety in the unincorporated areas, the Sheriff's Office is developing a plan to safeguard the community should the event draw large crowds. This is unknown at this point in time, and the Sheriff's Office is actively meeting with the event organizers to collect additional information. Or also they're monitoring this in case of significant public safety issues arise during the event. In consult with County Counsel Carr, he does not see anything that we could add from a legal standpoint in this case. This has raised the question that I have received. So what does this mean for Washington County event venues, such as Westside Commons? On April 23rd, 2019, the BCC adopted a booking policy. On page 5, under the other heading, there is a bullet that says, the Westside Commons will not allow events that advocate the use of violence or discriminate explicitly or implicitly against any race, gender, sexual orientation, religious or ethnic group. No conduct or activity will be allowed which constitutes a public nuisance. So that language is in our booking policies, and that's what staff uses, but that only applies to the county-owned venue. So I'm available, and I know County Counsel Carr is available if there's any board questions on this matter.
Go ahead, Commissioner Crease.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Angie, is there a projection as to how many people will be in attendance at the event? And I just wanted to clarify that. I think when you said drawing large crowds, it's a given that there'll be large crowds in attendance. I mean, we're talking about a separate issue, correct?
I anticipate I can update the board in the near future as the Sheriff Office collects additional information on this.
Right.
Sheriff Garrett indicated at this point he cannot clearly quantify the scope of this event. There's more conversation they need to work through with the event organizers.
Great. And I'm just clarifying that the purpose of the event is to draw crowds for the activity that's being observed. That's all I'm clear.
Well, and that does get into the county's role of traffic control too, and also the event's role in security and safety as well.
Thank you.
Commissioner Willie, go ahead.
Yes, as far as Pam, as far as your question about attendance and those kinds of things, it's my understanding the invitations to the professional golfers has not been sent out even yet, and may not, because they have a couple of fairly major PGA events coming down the pike, and I don't think they want to necessarily compete at this time. So we may not know those numbers until early June, I'm guessing. But I have asked Megan to reach out and get an update for Mayor Linehan and the sheriff and certainly WCVA. Maybe by the middle of May, we might have some better numbers and better information. But for right now, even they don't know how many people are going to show up, nor how many golfers are going to show up.
for our own sake, I would remind us that this is not the first time that the Pumpkin Ridge Golf Course has hosted major golfing events. And from my experience in living in northwestern Washington County, though on the suburban side and not in North Plains, it's pretty much gone without a hitch in terms of traffic. I remember when I first moved here in the 1990s with the air show, there would be all kinds of buses to bus folks from different major parking lots over to the golf course. And things have evolved and changed since then. And our community has developed quite a capacity to continue to function while hosting major events. So I know I feel a lot more comfortable about how things go and are arranged. So we'll see what happens. So thank you, Ms. Angie and Mr. Carr, for making sure that we were informed. Daniel will be forwarding to the BCC Communications email list the latest draft letter that the local mayors are circulating and signing on to. It is we received the early draft from Mayor Pete Truax in Forest Grove a couple of weeks ago, and that letter has been finalized and is available for signatures. So you have that. Anything else, Ms. Angie?
So just a couple reminders. We have the volunteer appreciation event, which is scheduled on April 20th from 5:30 to 7:30. And then also on Thursday night, we do have budget orientation. In response to a couple questions from board members, you will not have received the Washington County budget by this time. The orientation is just a process orientation. So I really appreciate your eagerness to receive this document, and staff are also eagerly completing our budget. So it will be in your hands next week. And that concludes my update.
I looked at the materials that we were sent. I looked at them last night, and I think last year was the first year that we had an orientation, and this continues to advance the level of information that is provided to all budget committee members. So thank you to you and your team for putting that together. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
for recognizing that, Chair Harrington. And that is a reflection that we are a learning organization and learning team. And so our goal is to iterate and get better each year based on feedback from our budget committee. I was combining words, and community members and yourself. So thank you.
Great. Any board questions of Ms. Angie on anything? No? Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Rogers.
If I can get the mouse to work, it's not participating well for this morning, or maybe it's just me. Tanya, in regard to our policy at the wingspan, that all sounded good until you read it back to me, and I was there when we adopted it, and it made sense. But there are groups who do discriminate, who may want to use the wingspan. And you say, well, who would that? That would be a civic club or a group. Even a high school graduation discriminates in terms of they're only there for that high school. They're not for every high school. Are we sufficiently broad enough that we can understand that if it's a Boy Scout troop or a Girl Scout troop, even though they may be inclusive or not, that we're not prohibiting them? Or if it's a gardener group, that we're saying, well, I know you're not a gardener, but you are included or not included. Is there any hiccups? I was just reading that, and it struck me that, and maybe it doesn't apply in all cases, or maybe we need to scope it differently.
Commissioner Rogers, that's a great question. And I would ask that I consult with County Council and get back to you on that. Thank you. Tom.
I can respond. Yeah, generally discrimination is viewed as being limited to people who are in protected classes. So you could certainly say you can't come if you're not a gardener, although most gardeners would be welcome, but I think probably welcome to everybody. But you can't say you can't come because you're a woman or because of the color of your skin or your religion. So I think that that's the way it would be interpreted.
And Commissioner Rogers, what I hear in your question, I will get you more information as far as how we operationalize that at Wings at the Westside Commons.
Yeah, thank you. I just, we want to be involved with everyone. We want to be inclusive, but we want to rent it out too. And so if the Rotary Club said, I want to rent it, and she said, well, you're discriminatory because only Rotarians are there, and maybe Tom's definition of protected classes, that would fit. I was just thinking, boy, are we excluding everybody, or how are we going to operate? But I understand. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Carr, any leadership communications?
Yes, thank you, Chair Harrington. Last evening, I sent you all a copy of a complaint we received, which I understand has been filed. It's a challenge to the Measure 34.314, which is the referendum on Ordinance 878 banning flavored tobacco products in Washington County. The complaint asks that the votes not be counted and the measure be invalidated. We just received it last night. I'm not even sure it's been filed yet. We haven't been served. We'll be handling this in-house. I'm meeting with our team over the lunch hour today to discuss who will be handling it and how we'll do that. And I'll keep you updated as we go forward. Thank you. I have nothing further, Chair.
Can I ask one question? Tom, you made the comment that you heard that we all received. I haven't received that, so I would love to see a copy.
I'll double check. I emailed it to you last night at about
No, you
5.
did. You did, but I thought you were implying that we got it from somewhere else.
Oh, no, you did not.
Oh, okay.
I only sent it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, they don't have to serve you personally.
Yeah.
You're not a
Okay.
defendant in this one.
Any questions? Any other questions of Mr. Carr? Okay, over to you, Ms. Taniguchi Dennis for Clean Water Services.
Good morning, Chair Harrington and Board of Clean Water Services. It's really good to be back, and the team did really well while I was out. The team reports they're in stable operations. They work through the rainfall event, and they're looking forward to the budget presentation. And also we do have that item number 5, and we did provide some information late last night, but it'll all be part of the conversation. So thank you.
Any other questions or comments from board members from Ms. Taniguchi Dennis? All righty. Well, we're a little bit ahead of schedule. Does anyone have anything else you'd like to try and put forward before our 10 o'clock meeting?
So, Madam Chair, if we may, we do have Rebecca Miller, so we can move up item number 2 to the morning for you to get it out of the way for you.
And it looks like I'm fortunate for a change to see Commissioner Fai's raised her hand, her electronic hand.
Chair Harrington, we can do what Kevin is suggesting if you prefer. I was just going to fill in some couple updates here and there.
What are the wishes of the board?
Well, let's hear from Nafisa real quick, and then maybe we plug in, if we still have time, we can plug in the other, but I'd love to hear from Nafisa.
Thank you, Commissioner Willie. I would just fill in a couple things last week. One thing that I really appreciated attending that I had the honor of is Ready Community Care. This was an informal discussion on witnessing loss and grief and what it means to heal together. And it was hosted by Clackamas County, and I really appreciated that conversation. And there was a lot of leaders that came together, and I unfortunately couldn't stay, but hopefully I'll have a conversation with you, Tanya and Latricia, to see how we can facilitate something like that for our employees here. And then unfortunately, the Chair Harrington, you mentioned the GARE conference. I hope I'm saying that acronym correctly, but I think you spelled out the full, the Government Alliance on Race and something else, I think it stands for. Um, I had a conversation with the organizers of one of the organizers, Amara Ansari from Race Forward, and they asked me to be one of the speakers at that conference for the iftar, specifically a section that's dedicated around Ramadan and the breaking the fast. But I won't be able to make it, and I wanted to extend my gratitude to the organizers in that conference and welcome them to Oregon, and look forward to hearing the outcomes of that conference. And Tanya and Chair Harrington and Latricia are all going to be great speakers and participants. And then I had a really great meeting with our mayor here in Beaverton, Mayor Lacey Beatty, and the conversation was around transportation and talked about a lot about transit issues, and then ended up discussing more on homelessness and how the county and the city partnership might look like addressing this homeless that's impacting everyone and every local officials and local governments. And then one thing that I think we had a lot of crossover meetings with Commissioner Willie and I, but one thing I wanted to add was we had a great meeting on Ordinance 883. And this was, we had a staff briefing to better understand when the discussion started around needing this extension, what alternatives were considered, and what the process might look like for the folks in that area if they were to be added to the UGB. So that was really good, and the staff came up with a lot of good question and answer documents that I hope to dig in deep. And then I had a really good meeting, Matt Wellner, around middle housing. I learned so much, and especially the focus on the Planning Commission, and look forward to that discussion on our board level. And great meeting again on Sunrise Beaverton with Commissioner Willie as well. And I think you're their new favorite commissioner, it's safe to say. And this was really focused on what are some of the low-hanging fruits around climate preparedness, and to be a county that's climately prepared. And then the TV Highway Steering Committee that Commissioner Willie did a great job of summarizing. One thing I would add, yes, it was our first meeting. They talked about a lot of statistics, and I think some of those statistics really Brenda and I bubbled up, and especially highlighting the concern and why there's a steering committee and why we're focusing on addressing this safety, focusing on improving this safety concern for this corridor. 29% of TV highway lacks sidewalks. And then 32% of bike lanes are missing or substandard. So those were really some of the concerning statistics that exist, and why we're focusing on this TV highway. And I'm really honored to be part of this and serving with, along with Commissioner Willie. And yes, Councilor Gonzalez did a great job facilitating that meeting, and did not realize I was going to take up this much time, but I'll stop right there, Chair Harrington, and thank you so much, everyone.
Does anyone have any questions on the nice information, the broad information that Commissioner Fye shared? Okay, seeing none. Looks like we have the opportunity to move forward with one of the work session topics. So I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Angie and Ms. Samantha on presenting the applicants for the Aging and Veteran Services Advisory Council.
Thank you so much, Chair Harrington. Well, good morning, Chair Harrington, Board of County Commissioners. My name is Mira Samantal. I'm the Interim Director of the Health and Human Services Department. Pleased to be here with you this morning. As Chair Harrington said, we are here to present applicants for the Aging and Veteran Services Advisory Council. So with that, I would like to introduce and turn it over to Rebecca Miller. Rebecca Miller is our Disability, Aging, and Veteran Services Division Manager for HHS. So Rebecca, go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, Maria. Good morning, commissioners and Chair Harrington. Pleasure to be here. So at the May 17th board meeting, we'll be asking you to appoint 2 new members and reappoint 1 current member to our Aging and Veteran Services Advisory Council for a 3-year term that will end on June 30th, 2025. I've met with these applicants and they've also attended and presented their qualifications at our March Aging and Veteran Services Advisory Council meeting. And I'll provide you with a brief bio on each member for your consideration. The 3 members we're requesting are Victoria, or she goes by Vicky Wolf, Nicholas Juarez, and the reappointment of Sefrina de Leon Dale. Ms. Wolf is a resident of District 2. She is a diehard volunteer and feels it's her responsibility and privilege to give back and realize that every elder's experience is different. She has a master's in public admin, health from PSU with 25 plus years in healthcare management and 10 years in nonprofit development. She's been involved in work and trainings to increase her own diversity, equity, and inclusion knowledge over the past several years. She's a volunteer with Viva Village and has served on various volunteer committees over the years, too numerous to mention here. She also served in the Oregon National Guard for 8 years and identifies herself as white, straight female, who's an older adult, over 60. Mr. Juarez is a resident of District 1. He has an interest in ensuring that younger veterans are served to the best of their ability and are able to receive the service to which they are entitled. He's a member of the American Legion and holds the position of judge advocate and served 4 years in the Marine Corps. He's also interned for Rep. Susan McLean of House District 29, which we think is great experience for an active council like Aging and Veteran Services Advisory Council. Mr. Juarez identifies as a veteran. He's male, under 60, and a person of color of Mexican descent. Ms. Sefrina de Leon Dale is a resident of District 4 and is a current committee member, first appointed in April of 2019. We're seeking her reappointment for a 3-year term. She is currently serving as on our executive committee and as chair after serving 2 years as vice chair, and has been particularly involved with reaching the Latino community in her role and in her day-to-day work as well. Several of you may know her from her role with Central Cultural serving elders. Her commitment to the community is extraordinary, and the perspective she brings to the council because of her work is really extraordinary for us. Getting to my next page here. She identifies herself as a heterosexual Latina over 60, and I just really appreciate her leadership of the AVSAC and the council, and of course, the council wholeheartedly supports her chairmanship in the future, if so appointed. The other hopeful appointees have attended and presented their qualifications at least one AVSAC meeting. They've participated in an interview with me and with the AVSAC exec, and the full council have voted to recommend them to you for approval. We have 4 additional applicants that are in the pipeline, and if the applicants before you are appointed, we'll have just 6 alternate positions available. Based on the information provided by the applicants, if the applicants presented are appointed, the AFSAC committee will be comprised of 17% minorities, 33% female, and 83% individuals age 60 and older. And I'm available for questions. Thanks.
Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments? Go ahead, Commissioner Willie.
Thanks, Rebecca. These are great selections, I think, and we've had the opportunity to talk with them as well at the last meeting. And so I just want to say thank you for your work on trying to fill these positions, and look forward to appointing these folks for a new term.
Thank you, Commissioner Willie.
Does anyone else have any comment or anything? Okay, so I'll wrap up. I really appreciate the work of this council and the work that you have done, Ms. Miller, to share information with us. I just have a brief question based upon the work session packet material. though I'll admit I didn't review the bylaws that you linked. But under the purpose and desired outcome, you talk about how this advisory council advises the department. And so I'm wondering, why is it, if this is a department serving council, why does the board have to, unlike our boards and commissions that advise the board, right? What is it about this committee such that the board needs to take action on the applicants versus just administratively?
I'll attempt to answer that, and Mira, if I fill in here. So under Older Americans Act, you are the advisory council is a requirement of our Older Americans Act funding, of which this board approves our plan every year, and then the department, of course, it moves up through our hierarchy. So I believe that's why. So they are board appointed positions for that reason. And then you designate that authority on down for us to find the folks and bring them on. Anything I missed, Mira? Is that accurate?
I think that's an accurate description, Rebecca. I think you did a great job. And I think Chair Harrington, you bring up a good point. I mean, it's possible a better wording would have been, advises of the department and the Board of County Commissioners, and we could make that adjustment.
Okay, thank you for that reminder. It was really helpful. Because, every department is empowered to have different task forces and other committees to get the job done that needs to be done. So not a problem as well at all. And I appreciate the service of each and every member of the council that is contributing their time and expertise, as well as any other member of the community that chooses to participate. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Okie dokie. So that took care of the item number 2 on our work session agendas. We have approximately 18 minutes before our 10 o'clock meeting, and I don't see that we have any other filler topics.
You're correct, Chair Harrington.
Okay. So at this juncture, we will pause our work session and reconvene at time certain at 1 o'clock after our business meetings. Okay, folks, do you want to start at 1:10 instead? Is that what this
No,
is
it's
all
10
about?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock,
o'clock.
not 1 o'clock.
Not
No,
1 o'clock.
we'll reconvene our work session at
Oh.
time certain,
Oh.
1 p.m.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Thanks.
We will host our business meeting as posted at 10 a.m. Okay? Everybody on the same page? All righty. We'll see you a little later then. Thank you.